This is Chris Tuttle, IFB Pro and Universal Athlete. Today we're going to go over some basic protein sources. These protein sources are not just generally for bodybuilding or powerlifting or strongman, just for any general population for healthy eating. These sources provide lower fat sources of protein, very high quality, and we're going to go over each one of them one by one. White meat chicken is generally a very lean source of meat in comparison to dark meat. Not that dark meat is generally a bad choice, but if you're looking to cut the calories, reduce saturated fat, white meat chicken is where it is. Per ounce cooked, it's about 8.5 to 9 grams per ounce. Right here, fish, cod, has a very, very high good source of protein, high biological value. It's usually, though be tricky, different per ounce than chicken. It's usually 5.6 to 6.5 depending on the database you see. Cod, same thing with whitefish, tilapia, and flounder. They're incredibly low in fat. Usually around 0.5, 1 gram per 4 ounces, and that's cooked. Again, a lot of the information I will say regarding the content of the food might vary from nutritional database to database. Steak can be a very good choice and a bad choice depending on the cut of meat. Obviously, the more marbled the meat, the better flavor, but also the more marbled, the more higher content of fat there's gonna be, such as like a ribeye or chuck. So this is a petite sirloin. As you can see, it's not very marbled, and you can have visible fat that you can cut away from it. So cooking this, you gotta be very careful. If you overcook it, it'll be very tough. But again, it's a very great source of protein. Red meat does have a very similar amount of cholesterol than chicken. It's a little higher in fat, around 3 grams of fat per ounce cooked. And protein is about 6.5. And some databases say 7, depending how much you cook it down. Pork is another protein source that's very overlooked. Pork loins, as you can see, pork again is the same thing as red meat. There's some good cuts of pork and there's not good pork. These pork loins, you can see, you can easily trim the fat away. It's very lean, it's very high in B1, thiamine. And again, you don't want to overcook these. Overcooking them can be very tough. And then some easier sources of protein on the fly. We have here Greek yogurt and we have cottage cheese. For 6 ounces of Greek yogurt, fat-free, it's about 14 grams of protein, and 1 cup, I believe, is around 29 grams of protein of cottage cheese. And they're both very lean sources depending, obviously, percent fat you choose. It is dairy, so obviously those who are lactose intolerant may have a difficult time tolerating it. And a good thing about dairy is it's a percent of casein and whey, usually 80% casein, 20% whey in dairy, so you get a good blend of 2 different sources of protein that's a non-meat protein. Very, very good choice, easy on the fly. Another good source of protein is eggs. Eggs itself has a very high biological value. It's a good source. The downfall is there's a lot of cholesterol in an egg. Now, dietary cholesterol by itself is not necessarily an indicator of raising blood cholesterol. However, the combination of saturated fat intake and cholesterol can rise cholesterol in the blood. So it's a good suggestion, you know, when you're cracking eggs, you might have 2 whole eggs for breakfast with a few egg whites. But these are your general sources of protein here. These are for everybody. If you're looking to lose fat, be healthier, you know, lower your intake of saturated fat, lean cuts of steak, lean cuts of pork, cut the visible fat around. Chicken's a great source. And of course, fish is great. But that's your recap here too on some healthy sources of protein.